leadership is sometimes having to do things you don't really want to do.
So you're listening to Leading San Diego. I'm Veronica Prandi, Executive Director at Lead San Diego.
And I'm Adrian Quintero from the David's Heart Foundation. Each episode, we sit down with LEAD alumni to explore stories of community leadership across our region.
And today, we're joined by Tana Lorah, who is the Chief External Affairs Officer at Snake Oil Cocktail. Tana is a triple LEAD alum from 2011 EMBARK, 2013 Impact, and 2025 Influence. Tana, we're excited to have you here.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm excited for this.
All right, so handing it off to you, Adrian.
Quick warm-up question for you, Tana, is when you introduce yourself in a room, what do you usually say first?
Wow. I usually introduce myself and stop for a minute while people ask me what my name is again, because Tana is not always a traditional name. People are like, Anna? And I said, no, Tana. Tara. Nope, still Tana.
Still Tana.
So a lot of times it's a great icebreaker. Believe it or not, I used to not like my first name, but it was a great way to kind of open up the conversation with folks. And then I would tell them immediately what I do, and which I do a lot of things.
I've had a few mispronunciations of my own name. It's not, I don't think it's too complicated, but I feel you on that. All right, so Tana, yes. You've described yourself not just as a connector, an engager, an idea maker, a collaborator, someone who's really fueled by curiosity and learning. And so I just want to get started on that. Like, what does that mean to you? What is all of those explanations? What does that mean?
Well, I kind of feel I'm a community-first person, and it's something that I've brought with me across jobs, across my education, across even my boards. I'm always thinking about how to elevate any room that I'm in, or how do I elevate somebody's experience, or how do I elevate a problem they're trying to solve by connecting them with the right people. I love engaging with people and listening to what they're working on, what they're excited about, what they need help with, and then, my idea start to go. How can I help them further that goal? Yeah, exactly. I really enjoy a creative brainstorm.
If your story has a starting scene, where does that begin?
I would probably look back to my childhood. I grew up in a family that was very heavy into service and volunteerism. I would fold T-shirts for a walk that my dad was working on in the community. He was a Chula Vista police officer, and at one point in time was the head of the safety patrol. So there was always a lot of events that he was doing for the kids. I became a camp counselor every summer for like 7 years, where I would spend a week at a time with elementary school students and helping mentor them through their camp experience. Was it a volunteer
you're going to show up, or you're like, I want to be there too?
No, I would say volunteering didn't really work very well in my family. It was really what was of interest to you. There were 4 of us, so we all had things that we liked to do, but I was generally the person who would put their hand up first I want to help. What is it? I would say, I want to help, and then find out what it was, and always happy to be a part of things.
And you said one of your earliest involvements was that volunteering with your family at all the different events that your dad was involved in. So what did that teach you about being present, being of service, and helping? Because I think there's that thread that comes to what you do now.
Yeah, I think I learned a lot about teamwork right out of the gate, because a lot of times I would not really know what I was walking into. I was a kid, so other people had organized it, other people knew what it was about, and I was there to, like I said, fold the T-shirts or organize the race packets or help check people in. And I really found that that's where it began for me, that listening to see why people were showing up, how people's days were going, and what they had hoped to, accomplish by being there that day. And I loved that. The satisfaction of seeing people well served and having a good experience was a big driver for me. And it maybe a little bit of a rush, which, it's probably my over-volunteering problem that I tend to have.
Okay, so we're going to talk. You're over-volunteering. You said that you had over 1,000 hours of community service by the time you graduated high school.
Yes. And
what were you doing?
I was doing everything for everyone. I was very active in my church at the time, also in Chula Vista. I went to a Catholic school that also did and encouraged a lot of volunteerism. But I even got involved with a political activity at a very young age. I think my first or second week of high school, someone was going to a Michael Dukakis for President rally, and I went to it, and
Will be
I thought, hey, why not? And went down with a bunch of folks from my high school, and we went to see what it was all about. He did not win his election, but I was very inspired by someone willing to stand up and talk about what they were interested in. And it really got me thinking about policy and how powerful it is and the ability for people to influence change by standing up. And so that was something that I kind of caught the bug of really supporting people in our community that are really interested in making change that helps everyone. And so I think that was also one of those moments, aha moments, which led me into, I think I have a path. And that was really kind of exploring that government relations and that community activity and just really staying informed to help.
Yeah, as a young person coming out of high school and going into all these different places, right? You're finding your path, right? What was that learning process like for you? Like where you were at that time, did you know people that you could learn about those things from, or was it just you kind of on your own?
I think I was definitely a self-initiator on some level. It was really just, again, being a good listener and like finding out what those opportunities are. If it was interest or I was curious, I would explore more and continue to learn. But I did have some mentors, for sure, absolutely, people in the education system that were incredibly powerful in my life, teachers, counselors, others, and my parents to a certain extent, but I was going my own way, as most young people do, and where I started to really have to go find my own opportunities. But I would also say that even in some of the work that I did in San Diego before I went to college, people kind of knew I was interested in that and would afford me opportunities to go to a fundraiser that I would never be able to afford on my own to go because they were like big ticket plate dinners.
To be in those spaces with
to
the
be in
people
those
who are in those
spaces, to
spaces.
learn, to listen. And I really found that just incredibly powerful. And again, things that you put in your backpack for your journey.
And you've been connected to LEAD for more than a decade. So you did EMBARK in 2011, which is a kind of sunset program. We don't run that program anymore. You did Impact 2013, so shortly after. And then you waited until last year to do Influence in 2025. So between those three programs and what you learned, like what is one like lead moment from either of those chapters that really like stayed with you or started something for you? Like what do you think about when you think back on those experiences?
Well, I really feel that even my very first program, the Lead EMBARK program that's no longer there, was very eye-opening because a lot of times when you're in your early career, you are really just kind of jumping into it. Yeah. You're figuring it out. You have supervisors and bosses that are kind of helping guide you to do the work. But I felt like the Lead EMBARK program was a really great intentional moment where it even just started out of the gate with, I think it was like a Myers-Briggs assessment. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God,
Who are you as a leader?
What? This was amazing. I had never really stopped to work on me.
Yeah.
I was always working on what my job was requiring of me. So it really kind of was a light that turned on for me that's kind of demonstrated how I might show up in different roles and different places. And it was just really informative. And I felt that it was beneficial not just at work, but also at home with communication styles and how to kind of manage through anything that's a little bit of a challenge.
Tell me a little bit more about the relationships that you built in LEAD.
Yes. I mean, I will say from all of my LEAD programs, I've developed really great relationships. And in some cases, I knew people when I went into the later program. So it really enhanced those relationships because a lot of times, certainly when you're working on external affairs or community relations, you see everybody all the time at the same events and you have about 3 minutes with them about things, and then you plan to make a coffee or a meetup at a later time. And in many cases that works out. But LEAD was great because it was, I want to call it like an adult camp on so many levels.
You adult field trips.
Exactly. Adult field trips. Learning adult field trips.
Yes.
Absolutely. But it really gives you the shared experience with people to kind of deepen your relationship, deepen your bond, people that you thought you knew but you didn't really know, that it just really created like more solid relationships that I rely upon. And what I thought was really fascinating too at the time in some of the earlier programs, I was with healthcare. And it's very easy to really stay in your bubble in healthcare. There's a lot of complexity in healthcare. There's a lot of internally and externally shared things that you go through with other people that are working in healthcare or touching healthcare. So for me, it was really exciting to see how other companies approached business or approached some of the same problems. Banks might handle something. They're having the same experience because they're a village too, the banking industry, and healthcare is a village. And it was really neat to see kind of that cross collaboration and how we all are kind of doing some of the same work. And how it intersects. So it was really great. And again, people I can pick up the phone and call, talk about, have you ever had this problem? And they'll say, oh my gosh, yes.
From your perspective. And I think that's one of the things that's I want to say beautiful about those experiences is you're coming at it from your perspective, like you said, in healthcare, and you're in that room with someone who's in a completely different industry. So you're not just making connections and networks out of those silos that you're operating in, but now you two, with your own experiences, are looking and learning about the same issue together. And that's where the innovation and like the true magic happens of how are we from our own individual industries and experiences looking at this issue and what can we do to either move this issue forward or work on this together. And that experience between the people who are in these programs lasts longer than just that program. It doesn't end. So you might meet in the program that you're in, your EMBARK 2013, but you're still going to be having those relationships, hopefully today, to benefit your career.
Absolutely. And some of them, even though they were peers in those programs, I would consider them mentors as well. And I just really appreciate those relationships and the fact that LEAD brings these folks together, and very intentionally. They're not all the same thing, because I can go to a meeting with all my peers that work just on what I work on, but the magic happens when you bring all of these groups together. I really love that.
If you could bring me in a little bit, what was it like before when you took the program, or you were in the programs in 2013, 2012, that time versus now?
Well, obviously leadership has changed, which is great. And I think that's also beneficial to the organization, that it has evolved and brought fresh relevancy to the work. I think the issues that were being talked about in 2011, while were important and relevant at that time, have evolved. And so it's really important to kind of change your curriculum and bring people together. And I think the values of LEAD is this lifelong journey of learning. And so I really felt very compelled to do the influence program, especially as I found myself in a leadership role and at the executive level, really working on strategy for my organization to really go back in and see and listen, what is the community doing? Listen from the amazing speakers that LEAD Influence puts together that I can learn from, that are actually in a lot of the sectors of our economy, to be able to be better. I was also, at the time, I was the chair of the San Diego Regional EDC Foundation Board, and I wanted to make sure I was bringing those experiences to my board and my board experience there. So I really feel like you should never stay isolated, and I feel like LEAD just goes above and beyond to really bring the people, whether you are in favor of certain aspects of their topics or not. It really is provocative. It makes you think about something beyond yourself and beyond your work.
And there's always an opportunity to learn.
Absolutely.
That's really cool. Yeah. Let's keep going till today. Fast forward to right now. How would you describe the work that you do? And I just wanted to get to know, what does Tana have going on right now?
Everyone's always
and the treats she brings everywhere with her.
Maybe this is something I picked up from LEAD too, is really, really knowing who you are as a professional and how you connect to the community. And I've taken that with me to every single job that I've had here in San Diego. And before I was in San Diego a little bit, I didn't know I was doing it. Again, that intentionality and that self-learning that took place with those earlier lead programs to now where I feel like everything I learn goes into my backpack, right? We're all climbing this mountain and everything, you can put everything in your backpack and it gets really heavy and you don't go very far, or you put what's really important in your backpack and you go further. And that's, I feel like, what I have been able to do in kind of tandem with what I've learned through my community experiences from LEAD and also from the people that I work with every day. It's, I constantly attack every day as what am I learning today and what am I doing today?
So you joined the Snake Oil Cocktail Company back in 2023 as their chief operating officer, and you're now their chief external affairs officer.
Yes.
And so what has it been like to step into that role, to step into a new industry? I know you said you worked in hospitality early on in your career, but now you're focused on strategic growth, operations, development, brand experience, which is always such a great experience with Snake Oil Cocktails.
It is fun. I think it was really fun. I think one of the things that attracted me to working with Snake Oil Cocktail Company is obviously my good friend Michael Esposito, who's the CEO, and we had been kind of lunch buddies for a long time. His office was across from mine when I was at Kaiser Permanente. I would see Snake Oil Cocktail at all these nonprofit events that I was actually sponsoring at the time, and we used to joke that I would see him more than my own colleagues sometimes because I was so out in the community, and it just kind of came up that I was looking to make a different choice in my career. My kids had raised themselves up to a place where they didn't need the day-to-day anymore, and it was an opportunity for me to say, what can I do differently? And with that backpack, do these skills translate across industries? And it was a really exciting and bold, I would say, and people were scratching their head, like healthcare to hospitality.
I think that's where I want to go next is like when making that change, what has the lead experience helped with? Because you're in a leadership position where you're having to strategize, grow, and then also figure out what the culture is of the environment. So what has the lead experience given you, and
well,
change?
It has absolutely inspired me to encourage other folks in my company. I have this incredible attachment to LEAD. It feels like it was part of my family as I have gone through my career. I really want others to have that very same experience.
With all the different roles that you've had, you've either been in a leadership role, you've worked with different types of leaderships in different industries. Leadership exists like no matter where you're situated in an organization, whether you're at the role that you're at now, which is, the chief external affairs officer at the C-suite, or at a role where you're doing the work of the organization. So when you're honing that skill and developing who you are as a leader, like that comes with challenges, that comes with failures, like everything is a learning opportunity. So what have you learned along the way in your leadership journey?
I think communication is really part of it. And I think I mentioned that you can be a leader no matter where you're situated in an organization. If you see a need, you can fill a need, you can take initiative, you can raise your hand, you can be a part of a solve for a lot of different things. But I think maybe like alluding to like some of those early failures, it was just like, I see a need, I'm just going to go do it and forget to tell people that I was doing it or that I was helping. And people be like, where did all that stuff go?
That was me.
Oh, I just took care of it. Well, that would have been really great to know because somebody else, that was their job. And I was like, oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, trying to help.
I was just trying to help, right? Just really kind of learning to communicate intention and ask for support and stay curious. And then also leadership is sometimes having to do things you don't really want to do. You don't have to tell people you don't really want to be in this position or have to have this experience, but you really continue to treat people with respect and dignity, even through a challenging project or process or meeting.
Looking back at your story, we talked about it a little bit, but I want to get a little listening and leadership. What is that for you? Like, why does listening matter so much?
Well, I think listening is really important. It's situational awareness. It's more than listening. It's also looking at body language to see how people are responding because they might be saying one thing and they're reflecting something else with their body language. And when you see that not matching, it's to put pause and stop and dig a little deeper to see like, okay, you're saying that sounds like a great idea, but your face is telling me that is not a great idea. So help me understand that. I don't want to be the type of leader that we're doing this and there's no questions asked. It's like, stop. Is there something wrong? Is there a critical issue that I'm not seeing? Am I not even reading the room? This is like, this is an allergy convention and you're serving peanut butter sandwiches. Like, come on. Like somebody needs to be able to stop and pay attention and feel comfortable and that I'm accessible enough to stop and own that I need to pause and maybe listen better.
So you said dig deeper and you said how to stay curious. So one of the things that I believe that makes a good leader is that humbleness, to have the drive to learn, to stay curious, and to be in spaces you're like, I might not agree with you with what you're saying or what I'm hearing, but what can I learn from you? What can I learn from this experience? And so talk to me about how you've stayed curious through your different careers or in the role you're in now, which is new,
Sure.
at least for the going from policy to Kaiser to hospitality. Like, how have you stayed curious throughout your career? How has that driven you? Like, why do you want to stay curious?
Well, I try to not have like preconceived opinions about things. I like to do my own research. If you completely listen to what other people say, either about another organization or about another person or even about an elected official, without doing your own homework, you're doing a disservice to yourself and your own personal brand.
Yeah.
Like, I believe that I need to find out information for myself. I also know I'm not always going to win when I have an opinion about something, and I have to accept that. And so being humble enough to know that I might be speaking to a brick wall about an issue, especially in politics, because they're not going to change their stance. But still, I cared enough to take the time to meet with them so that they could at least hear my side of the story. But it also gave me an opportunity to hear what they were going through and what challenges that they were having. So it might be able to give me a little bit of creativity to figure out, how about if we both lose a little bit and take this approach, right? It allows the process of consensus making to happen. So I really enjoyed that aspect in that. Keep listening, stay curious, and better outcomes will often follow.
Yeah, I think the service that you're offering to San Diego is like, as a leader, being able to be in those community spaces, but also be at a board level. Mm-hmm. What has that taught you from a systems impact standpoint? Like I think being on a board is kind of a different world. I'm on the board here at Davis Harp, and making that jump from just being, whether I was a program graduate here, staff, but then being on the board is just kind of it's a little different. So
it's a different seat. It really is. And again, I think you're probably getting the gist that I'm a doer. Yes. So it's really hard to sit on your hands sometimes. And you're being on the board, obviously you have your due diligence that you're required to do on the board to make sure that, finances are in order and governance is there. But beyond that, you're there to help the organization succeed. And the organization might be the CEO or the executive director. And how do you help them? And how do you stay out of their way when they don't need your help? Well. And so really that situational awareness where it's like, okay, you're crossing into working here, and instead of supporting the board, instead of supporting like the leadership accomplish their goals. And so really, it's really just like, I'm over here if you need me, but also I have an opinion, take it or leave it, but here you go. Here's what I might do. And really just your leadership is a lot different than when you're actually working for an organization where you're the one doing it and activating it, and really just kind of stepping back and saying, how do I help? And then not helping if you're not invited to help, right?
As an executive director, I appreciate that perspective.
Exactly. That's
board
probably
member.
the hardest one. And I've been on boards for so many years and so many different boards. I was even on Promises to Kids board. And it's really hard sometimes to watch other people continue to move into like space that the directors and the leaders are supposed to be working on. You're like, that's not our job. That's not our job.
Yeah.
We're over here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you are probably busy, but you are a doer. So you're getting a lot of stuff done. And it is hard to say no sometimes. But what is the thing that keeps Tana like saying yes to all these different things in her community?
Well, I've definitely learned that I need to space things out a little bit more. So I've actually termed out of 211 San Diego, and I've termed out of EDC just this last couple of months, or a month ago. And so I'm taking a pause, and I'm being really thoughtful about what do I do next. And just because I'm not on those boards does not mean that I'm not still helping. I'm just not going to the board meetings. They can still pick up the phone and call me and see how I can help, or if I can introduce them to somebody or connect them to somebody. I absolutely will continue to do that. So I'm really being thoughtful about that. I enjoy the Rotary Club because it's just a service organization, and I don't have to organize the board packets or be involved in any other way other than participate with the fellowship aspects to continue to be a good Rotarian, and participate in the service projects that I'm available to do. My husband and I had a great date day and did a cleanup in Chula Vista, and it was super fun.
That's
we got
really cool.
outside, we got some exercise, and we were doing something great for the community. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I have a few things that people are asking me to consider, and I'm really being thoughtful about it to see what the time commitment is. And there are working boards and there are advisory boards, and really a working board is probably a little bit more difficult for me right now because I'm building an organization. So I have to be really thoughtful about the right time and the right place and the right vibe.
So before we close, I want to talk about what you are building.
Yes.
So your team opened 3 new event venues in 2025.
Yes.
And you launched the San Diego Yacht Rock Festival coming up in May?
sounds fun.
May 2nd.
So when you think about all of these milestones that you've personally contributed to and that you are still contributing to, well, you can share a little bit more about the work you've done, but also I want to hear, what are you most proud of within that work?
Well, I love building things. I love doing things. So I don't know that I would have intentionally grown as fast as we grew this year, but it has been extraordinarily exciting, and it's been with an amazing team where we have taken ideas, explored them, and realized it's happening, and the train leaves the station, and then another one kind of falls out of the sky, and we rinse and repeat a few times. But I would say that, it's been exciting. We started off when I joined the company. It was Snake Oil Cocktail Company and Julep Venue, and now at 32,000 square feet of event space to now operating over 511,000 square feet of event space here in San Diego, which includes the Julep Venue, Bramble Bay and Imperial Beach, Vesper Venue in Liberty Station, and we just opened Chapel. And we also continue to have wonderful partnerships with other organizations like UC San Diego. And we work on a collaboration with the San Diego Padres at Eve downtown. And we're just, we're just really growing, and it's been really fun. I would not recommend growing that fast.
You're doing a great job from
when you have
the
a great
outside.
team and you have a great culture, all things are possible.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, one thing I'm taking away from today is the impact of listening with intention. That's the one thing that I'm taking away.
And I'm just taking away that not just you as an individual, but your team and the culture that you all have built at Steak or Cocktail, and how you continue to give back to the community. It's that showing up as a giver, and not just in who you are, but what you all do as an organization. So just want to thank you for being here with us today, Tana.
Thank you for having me.
So this has been Leading San Diego, produced in partnership with the David's Heart Foundation. Thank you for listening.